After finding a magic staff in a museum, some friends gain elemental powers and are transported to another dimension where they have to face various creatures to protect the Tree of Life. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, The Legend of the Five, from 2020. On her way to a school trip, a high school student called Zoe gets on the bus with the rest of her class. In the vehicle, the teacher begins to explain what they are going to see in the exhibition and tells them that they are going to learn about the Elementalists, a group of magical beings who drew power from the Tree of Knowledge to create the world. While she is talking about the trip, the teacher notices a student called Kaylee outside and forces her inside, saying that she is the only one they need to leave. Now that everyone is on the bus, the driver drives the group to the exhibition of supposedly magical artifacts. There, one of the employees, Dr. Rawson, explains a little about each of the museum's pieces, especially the Tree of Knowledge, which gave rise to the universe. While her class is following the guide, Zoe hears a strange noise coming from one of the rooms and decides to split off from the group to investigate, accompanied by her friend Owen. There, they see a staff with several markings on its handle, and Owen immediately identifies the runes of the 5 elements. While the boy is explaining some of what he knows about the legend, 2 other students called Javier and Caitlin show up to ask what they're doing, sparking a small argument. During the conversation, the staff falls to the ground without anyone touching it and Zoe decides to pick it up, causing the object to glow mysteriously. As soon as Zoe touches the object, the rune of each of the elements lights up on the young people's faces and they begin to feel something strange. Afraid of being discovered, Owen suggests putting the object back when Mrs. Rawson appears in the room. Seeing the staff in the teenagers' hands, the woman asks how it happened and makes them all go to her office. Instead, Rawson explains that the staff was made from the wood of the Tree of Knowledge and used by the Elementalists to create the world. Looking at the object in the teacher's hands, Owen asks why it's broken and the woman tells him that the staff has been in the collection for over 100 years, saying that it was once found like this. Owen then asks about the lights on the staff and says that when the object was in Zoe's hands, everything lit up, including the runes on their faces. As soon as she hears this, Professor Rawson picks up a cube of obsidian and says that the object was found along with the staff, asking the group to touch it to see if anything happens. Without thinking twice, Javier takes the object from the woman's hands and one by one they all touch the cube, entering a trance immediately. Seeing how her friends are, Zoe refuses to touch the object, but changes her mind when she hears her mother singing from inside the cube. As soon as she touches the artifact, everyone is pulled up and ends up in the middle of a desert. After being unconscious for some time, everyone gets up and starts to think of a way to get home, but the discussion is interrupted by a song that starts playing out of nowhere. After a few kilometers following the noise, the group ends up in the middle of a forest where they meet Marduk, a man with moss in his beard who appears to be asleep. As soon as he hears the youngsters' voices, the stranger wakes up startled and says that the sorcerer has returned, but changes the subject as soon as he sees Zoe in front of him, calling her a child of the earth and saying that she doesn't smell right. The old man goes on to say that the beast doesn't like smells from outside the forest and everyone is confused. Suddenly, they hear an approaching grunt and immediately assume that this is the beast Marduk is talking about. The bearded old man then says that the guardian is coming and that Zoe must show him who she really is, but the girl can't understand the message and everyone runs away before the beast arrives. Pursuing the group, the guardian manages to catch up with Dr. Rawson and knocks her down with a punch, causing the woman to black out and knocking the staff out of her hands. With the woman down, the beast approaches to sniff her when it hears Zoe's voice, abandoning the teacher to go after the rest of the group. During her escape, Zoe ends up trapped against a tree and almost gets caught, but manages to escape at the last second by merging with the trunk. After everyone has gone, Professor Rawson wakes up and waits by the staff until some goblins appear. Without patience, the woman says that the youngsters have not yet awakened their powers and orders the goblins to find a way to force the elements out of the youngsters. Without imagining what Rawson is planning, Owen and the rest of the group walk through the forest until they come across a wall with several inscriptions. As she approaches, Kaylee realizes that she can read the language and stretches out her arm, causing the rune of one of the elements to light up in the palm of her hand and also on the wall. On the other side of the forest, Zoe wakes up in the middle of a wood where she finds Marduk. Now that she is alone with the man, the girl takes the opportunity to ask questions and discovers that he is an earth elementalist just like her, and that because of this, they both have the power to manipulate nature. Finally, Marduk says that he grew up there and lived peacefully until the sorceress turned against them. Confused, Zoe asks who this sorceress is and the elementalist replies that she was the original guardian of the tree. When he reached adulthood, Marduk traveled the world and met 4 other elementalists who, together with him, discovered a way to manipulate the power of the elements. With only the earth left to master, the elementalists tried to return to the Tree of Knowledge, but the sorceress stopped them. That is until the day a plague fell on the forest, and without knowing what to do, the sorceress decided to ask the quintet for help. Convinced by them, the woman decided to use the power of the tree to heal the people of the forest, but the energy was so great that she ended up going mad and turning against her own people. Realizing this, the 5 elementalists decided to confront her and banished her from the sacred grove, condemning the sorceress to search for a way back ever since. After telling the story, Marduk once again states that the sorceress has returned and asks Zoe to find the other part of the staff, saying that only then will they be able to stop the villain from draining the tree's energy. Not knowing what to do, Zoe asks where she can find the tip of the object, and Marduk replies that it is after the Mirror of Obsidian, the home of shadows. As she doesn't understand what he means, the girl replies that she just wants to go home and gets up, but Marduk tells her that there is no other way back. Finally, the man tells her that she must remove the smell of the sorceress and that anything with the scent of earth will stop the beast from chasing her, suggesting that she rub mud on her face and clothes. With that done, Zoe goes back to talk to Marduk and realizes that once again he has disappeared without a trace. Far away, the girl's friends approach a rock and Kaylee once again manages to read the inlaid poem, discovering that it talks about the unification of the 5 elements: earth, fire, wind, water and ether, the space that exists between things. As soon as he hears this, Owen suggests that the stone wants them to present a bit of each element, but as they still don't know how to use their powers, they come up with the idea of doing it the old-fashioned way, using a torch, a handful of earth and saliva to activate the runes. Alone on the other side of the forest, Zoe searches for her friends when she is almost detected by the Guardian, only to be saved by Rasen at the last second. Happy, Zoe hugs the woman who decides to reveal that she is the sorceress from Marduk's story. Seeing the girl's shock, Rasen tells her that the elementalist lied and that she couldn't stop them the first time, but that she's been trying to fix the staff to save the forest ever since. The sorceress says she needs Zoe's help and reveals that only elementalists can get close to the tree, saying that's why she took them there. Realizing that Zoe doesn't trust her, Rasen tells the girl that her friends are in danger and points her in the exact direction where they are, helping her to reunite with the rest of the group. Upon hearing what Kaylee has discovered so far, Zoe says that the riddle isn't referring to the elements but to the elementalists, revealing to everyone that she has the power of the earth. As the Guardian approaches, Zoe stretches out her arm and lights the earth rune, telling her friends that they should do the same. Owen lights the water rune, Caitlin the fire rune, Kaylee the ether rune and Javier the air rune, bringing the 5 elements together and teleporting them away. In the new place, the group begins to wonder why the beast is chasing them, and Zoe tells them that they smell like a sorcerer, recounting what Marduk told her about disguising themselves with the smell of the earth. While smearing themselves with mud to change their scent, the group spots a small fairy with a broken wing and gather around her. Using her earthly powers, Zoe manages to heal the fairy's wing, which begins to fly from one side to the other, enchanting everyone. Excited, the girl says that they must find the other elementalists and locate the tree in the center of the forest to return home. With this difficult mission, the quintet cross several different biomes until they arrive at a crossroads full of signs. While they are trying to figure out which way to go, a dark figure appears claiming to be the guardian of the crossroads. With no time to lose, Owen tries to ask a question and gets too close to the guardian, being transformed into water molecules and transported away. After him, Javier approaches to make amends and ends up suffering the same fate, leaving only the girls behind. Realizing that she has no way of fighting back, Zoe tries to appeal to the Guardian's feelings and says that they are there to stop the sorcerer and save the tree, but the creature tells her that he doesn't care and wants to know her true intentions. With the idea of bribing him, Caitlin offers her expensive earrings and Kaylee tries to give him some money to convince him to bring her friends back, but this offends the Guardian so much that he sends them away. Alone and not knowing what to do, Zoe decides to hand over the bracelet that belonged to her mother and starts talking about it, making it clear to the Guardian how valuable that object is to her. When it realizes this, the creature says it accepts her offer and opens a portal for Zoe to go through, but instead of giving her passage to the forest, the Guardian gets confused and teleports her to a completely snowy biome. Elsewhere, Kaylee and Caitlin are looking for their friends when they are spotted by a very strange creature called the Unweaver. As soon as she sees the half-man, Kaylee tries to approach him and is stopped by her friend. Suddenly, the creature appears in front of the two and says it's hungry, inviting them to eat. Wanting to reunite with their friends, the girls ask if he has seen any other humans, and the creature replies that they must be with their friend Weaver, offering to guide them there. Even though it's a terrible idea, the two accept and start following the hybrid monster. In the snowy biome, Zoe is shivering when she is visited by Rasen, who congratulates her on her progress, saying that she has already passed through 2 gates. The sorceress then says that she needs her help and tells her that the elementalists have built a barrier to prevent her from reaching the tree. Zoe then replies that he never agreed to help her and wonders why the guardian of the crossroads sent her there, but before Rawson can answer, Javier appears in the distance and the sorceress disappears. As soon as she sees her friend again, Javier tells her that there is something she needs to see and guides her to Weaver, who uses a giant crochet needle on the ground to make the trees grow, creating the passage between winter and spring. Unlike the Unweaver, the woman is quite silent and doesn't answer any of the young people's questions. Suddenly, Unweaver arrives with Kaylee and Caitlin, who are happy to see the group again. Seeing how chatty the man is, Zoe asks if Weaver is all right and he replies yes, saying that she just takes her job very seriously. He then introduces himself to everyone and tells his companion that he's hungry, causing Weaver to drop the giant needle to transport everyone to a feast. While eating, Zoe says that she still has a missing friend and asks if he can locate Owen, who at that point finds another stone with runes on it. Unaware that the guardian is nearby, the boy begins to read the scriptures while Weaver shows them everything that is happening through a portal. Reading the stone together with Owen, Kaylee realizes that it is talking about a box that lies after the obsidian mirror. Upon hearing this, Zoe says that they must get to that place and Unweaver says that humans always die trying to pass through the mirror, sparking an argument between them. At that moment, the guardian manages to find Owen and almost captures him, but Caitlin manages to pull him back and they all run out with a piece of the portal in their hands, leaving Weaver to close the passage before the guardian gets through. In the center of the forest, Rawson arrives at the elemental barrier and starts shouting that this is her home, attacking the protection to try to get to the other side. Despite her best efforts, nothing happens and the sorceress promises to return with her staff completely rebuilt. At night, the group of young people are gathered around the campfire when a projection of the sorceress appears behind Zoe. As she's the only one who can see her, the girl moves away from the group to talk to Rawson, but Caitlin notices and interrupts her, asking who she's talking to. Gathered together again, the group begins to think of a way to stop the sorceress when they hear laughter approaching. Apprehensive, everyone runs behind a tree and hides to watch 2 goblins invade the camp. In order not to be discovered, the group decides to run far away and ends up in the middle of a quicksand that begins to suck Zoe in. In her head, Rawson tells her that she must sink into the darkness, and even without hearing what the sorceress said, the rest of the group decides to go after their friend. Once underground, Caitlin is in total darkness when she sees her reflection in the obsidian mirror. Confused, the girl asks where the others are and her reflection tells her they are on the other side, inviting her into the mirror. At the same time, everyone else also meets their projections who try to convince them to enter. Unlike the others, Zoe's reflection only holds a bowl of strawberries, which for some reason the girl enters. Unable to imagine what has happened, Caitlin talks to her copy, who does everything to diminish her self-esteem, but despite her reflection's efforts, the girl manages to repel her with a blast of fire, shattering the obsidian mirror. Now that she's free, Caitlin sees Javier walking towards another mirror and stops him from entering, using her power to free him. Together, the 2 go to Owen and Kaylee and use their powers to destroy the reflection of the mirrors, breaking everyone out of their trance. Now that they're free, they finally realize that Zoe isn't there and Caitlin decides to enter the last remaining mirror to look for her. On the other side, the girl finds her friend crying on the bed next to the strawberries and asks what happened. Zoe then tells her that she always ate strawberries with her mother after school, but that one day she decided not to go home after class and when she finally returned, she found her mother already dead. Caitlin then says that it wasn't her fault and that none of this matters now, encouraging her friend to get out of the mirror so they can save the world. Together, the 2 return to the darkness and reunite with the rest of their friends. Suddenly, the place begins to shake and a portal out of the darkness opens, allowing them to escape to safety. Now that they have made it past the obsidian mirror, the group believes they are close to finishing their journey and walk until they find a heavy box in the middle of the water. After they put the object in a safe place, Rawson appears next to Zoe and begins to manipulate the girl's mind, making everyone open the box, which to their surprise is empty. Noticing Zoe's mood change, Caitlin begins to look at her friend and notices a strange shadow around her, but before they can understand what is happening, the sorceress materializes in the flesh in front of them. Furious, Rawson says she brought them there for nothing and Caitlin asks what she's talking about. The sorceress then reveals that she manipulated the lives of each of them to bring them to the forest, including Zoe's mother's cancer, which caused her to move to a new country in search of treatment. While Rawson is talking, Kaylee has the idea of using Weaver's portal fragment to bring the guardian to them, but the creature doesn't stand a chance against the sorceress who leaves him totally immobilized. Taking advantage of the distraction, the group enters the portal and returns to the forest, but even though they are far away, they can still hear the guardian approaching. Suddenly, that fairy reappears in front of them, and Zoe remembers that forest creatures are susceptible to the power of the earth, and has the idea of using her elemental energy to befriend the beast. Even though it's dangerous, the girl waits for the monster to appear and throws a blast of energy in its direction, paralyzing it and gradually making the beast calm down. Now that the guardian is still, Zoe realizes that the tip of the staff is inside the creature's body and uses all her strength to pull the object out, causing them both to pass out. With the artifact in hand, the rest of the group begins to think about what they should do when the sorceress appears asking for the object. Even though they are afraid, Owen and Caitlin refuse to back down and go to the front to protect the artifact, but they are easily defeated by Rawson. To prevent her friends from getting hurt, Zoe gets up and returns the tip of the staff to the sorceress. With her objective completed, the woman picks up Zoe and crosses the barrier protecting the tree, ending up right in front of Marduk. Even though he's old, the elementalist says he'll stop her from destroying the world, and Rawson doesn't think twice before plunging her staff through his chest. To prevent the man from dying, Zoe goes to him and tries to use her powers to heal him, but not even all her accumulated energy is enough to save the old man. In his last words, Marduk tells her that she shouldn't worry and that life and death are connected. After his body disappears, the sorceress says they've had enough and orders Zoe to stick the staff into the tree, but instead the girl uses her energy to make the power of the tree spread, causing a huge explosion that takes the sorceress' life. Now that the tree has been destroyed, the 5 elementalists place their hands on the ground and combine their powers to feed the soil, making the sapling of the new tree of knowledge grow. As soon as the plant appears on the ground, Zoe blacks out and stops breathing, forcing her friends to grab the obsidian cube and return to civilization in despair. Despite the scare, everyone is fine and returns to their reality at school, but even though the adventure is over, everyone still retains their powers. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.